everyone. Welcome to the first talk of the Houdini 22 HIVE. As Chris said, my name is Fianna. I work at SideFX, and today we are going to look at USD in SOPs, and that you should just do it in SOPs already. So what does that really look like? It's probably something that you're familiar with already if you have worked in LOPs or stage. It's the same thing. And if not, then it's okay if you get up and leave. But you can check out SideFX.com to get some more information about Houdini and everything that you can do inside. So I played this. And so with that bicycle scene, we're going to look at a couple of tools that are new in 22 that I used to put it together. Of course, we don't have time to cover everything of 22, but we'll look at quad remesh. And if you've seen my past presentations, yes, I'm still covering quad remesh because there was something new, and yes, it's still in beta. We'll also look at scatter instances, sculpt, implicit surface, texture material library, and some new USD SOP nodes. Also, if you notice the color coordination, it's a bit clipped down there, but basically orange stuff is SOPs and green is LOPs. So what do we usually do when we need to go make something? We look at references. So here are some of the references that I looked at when I thought, like, I talked to development and they're like, we're going to do these things. And I thought, what would be cool to make use of those? And I thought a bike shop, because namely, I have an asset already, the bike. And then I wanted to put some tools to the test. So with making a bike shop, it means we need to fill it up with a whole lot of assets. And these are just some of them that I went shopping and looked up some images of bins, screws, workbench, power outlets, and such. And not everything made it into the scene, but basically the approach that I went was with using image to 3D conversion, which I use Pinocchio. If you don't know what that is, it's just, you can look it up after and install it, but you just take an image, any image, and you put it through this interface, and it gives you this 3D mesh, which generally is garbage, but it allowed me to easily make decisions about what I want to have in my bike shop or not. And I didn't have to commit to building the whole thing from start to end, and then I end up with some asset that I'm like, well, this doesn't really fit, and I have to like keep it somewhere in the back and maybe use it one day. So with this process, I had a lot of stuff that I binned, and the stuff that I did keep, I put it through the quad remesh, and it's too advanced, like it's too much to call it like a pipeline, but it's just like quad remesh, a couple of nodes to process it, to give it UVs, and then you end up with a usable, like a working asset. So with Houdini 22, if you guys were on the keynote yesterday, there were some examples of hard surface, like CAD type meshes. And basically what you need to know is that the new method, rectangular, allows you to process such a type of mesh with better results. But that's not to say that the previous, like existing method, which was in 21, Houdini 21, uniform, like is discarded. It really just, there's only two modes, right? So whatever mesh you have, just like try the two, because you'll find the one that gives you the better result. And here is a like walkthrough of some of the assets that I put through this pipe of image to 3D, quad remesh, some kind of like cleanup, and a bike bench. This like wheel locking mechanism that you put on that. And this one actually was a CAD file, which also had like bad surface topology. The normals were flipped. So I also ran it through the quad remesh. I also put some power outlets. And basically the main takeaway is you kind of don't need reference images anymore, because if you put it through this process, you get everything with the right proportions, which kind of more or less is what you care about. If you want to go back and clean it up, rebuild it properly so it's like more optimized, you can do that. But if you want to just jam a bunch of things in a scene, see how it fits. This is a really like cool, flexible way to do that. Here's a closer look at the process. I have an image. I input that into the Pinocchio. You get this garbage mesh. It's very dense, but the proportions are there. And the middle is a close-up of the like mesh, which is totally not usable. As with all quad remesh, you always want to append a remesh node because quad remesh doesn't like irregular shapes. You want to always have like a uniform mesh, regardless if it's just like a bunch of triangles. You'll get like happier results. And when the developer told me, hey, I have this new like rectangular method, you should try it. I got the screw and I had very low expectations. I put it through and it was just like, I don't know, it was like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, bam, like this thing with the interior shape, everything like looked as it should, and I was amazed. Here are some different angles of it. Of course, it's not as perfect as if you were to retopo it by hand, but for the amount of time that you put in to like make this asset, clean it up, it has this weird interior like gap that shouldn't exist. But this is like a small tax to pay if you just delete the interior geometry and then just select the edge loops top and bottom, polyfill, and call it a day. After that, you put it through the auto seam, unwrap it with UV flatten, UV layout to lay it out, and then you can bring it into Copernicus to generate some materials. And you can even use it in the scatter instances, because I had in mind that I wanted to kind of litter the bike shop with a bunch of screws and like random things, but I ran out of time. But you can see here that I've taken just 2 assets, or maybe you don't see that because it has such a variety of different scales and rotations and positioning. So it's really as simple as just, in this case, I have 2 assets. These 2 screws, they're wrong proportions. I don't care. I just modify it in an edit, position it close to the ground so I don't have some like offset. If you want an offset, then just leave it. After that, I applied the materials that I created from cops and made a shader, applied it to, oh, it's playing too fast. I applied it to one of the screws. And then I have this configure primitive, which just hides these imported meshes because you don't want them to show when everything instances. And then I have this room where I want to scatter them. And then here is the scatter instances interface where you can just change the number of instances very easily, put what prototypes, which are those screws. And of course, you can have much more than 2. You can decide what kind of distribution, the weight that you want to apply, one more than the other. And you can just kind of tweak to your heart's content, the scale, the orientation, how many you want, rotations, and everything like that. So one more thing to know, just if it wasn't apparent already, this only will appear at render time. So if you're in Vulkan, you're just going to see your like 2 assets or whichever one that you're looking at. The instances will only appear when you're using Karma XPU or CPU. And because it's only a render time thing, Houdini doesn't really know like this is a geometry. So you will get interpenetrations. And to resolve that, you can just use the relax iterations and tweak it until you get something that works in your camera frame. Okay, next is Sculpt. There's nothing mind-blowingly new here, but just some new additions to help with your workflow. And that is just a simple G key to bring up a toggle menu, like a floating menu. And you can access all of the Sculpt controls, brushes, and everything. Put it away when you're done. You can also set values more than the usual range of 0 to 1 using the mouse and keyboard combination. You can also, so like in 3, I applied a strength of, and there's also a lazy mouse visualizer, which again, like it's nothing earth-shattering, but If you have some mechanical surface that requires tracing along an edge, it's much more visible to see now. And yeah, as I said, this is just minor improvements to help just make things easier, because otherwise you would have to keep a window open, change stuff there, or change things up at the top, and everything kind of is at your mouse fingertip, if you will. So here I have the version that I sculpted back in details, because when you put things through the image to 3D conversion, you get the proportions, but everything kind of gets softened and you lose the detail. So using the sculpt is one way to add them back. Next is the implicit surfaces, which I'll call them cheapo Booleans with quad mesh automatically. I use just these three nodes: implicit surface with some basic geometry options, implicit surface operation to do my Booleans, and then the convert to get it into something usable. And it looks something like this. So I start off with a box, and a regular box, and a tube. I copy it a bunch of times. I do my operation, the Boolean, and I convert it, and everything is a quad. And you're saying, okay, but I got Booleans, I can do that, and I can do that with precision. Yes, you're not able to get like super crazy accuracy with this, but this asset is somewhere in the distance. I don't have to see every like millimeter of a curve, and that was enough, and it was quick. The next is texture material library. So the main takeaway from this is you can now author all COP nodes inside that. You don't have to create a COP net, you don't have to pin a window, you don't have to like op point to something else. You just make that and you put your COP nodes in. So to continue with this breadboard thing, I just bring it in with the UVs. I apply some colors, some noises, grunges, and stuff. And I'm happy with how it looks, so I can just write it out as a texture. You can, of course, keep it live, but in my scene, I got so many assets and at different resolutions. I don't want to put my computer to undue strain. And so with some of this like image to 3D process and additional modeling, I also have this resource of Polyhaven, which if you don't know, you should. It's got a huge repo of HDRIs, materials, and assets that are ready to use, and they're Creative Commons licensed, so you can use them for commercial as well as personal, of course. So go there if you don't know. And those were all the assets that I put into the scene. And now that takes us to, like, I want to get something rendered, but I never quite got this USD thing. And should I just scene import all and stick it all in there, which is not the thing that you should really do, or do a bunch of SOP imports, SOP creates, and then merge everything anyway? I had to do some stuff in SOPs, and then I kind of had to do similar things in stage or LOPs. It's the same thing. Like, you're wondering, why do I have to do everything twice, kind of? So I'm happy to introduce two small and mighty nodes that are in 22, which are in SOPs. And these two guys will help you define the structure, like your USD hierarchy, from within SOPs, which is kind of like a more familiar place. And here is what it looks like. I'll explain it a bit further, but just to show you the interface, it's really two things that I cared about, or that I used, which were setting the kind. Everything I set is a subcomponent within the bike shop, so it's like an umbrella of the things. And then everything I did in terms of transform, rotation, and scale, I did it also all within this, like, each USD create component node. So every asset I had, I would tag it with the USD create component, because otherwise, you know, you put a bunch of transforms, you put a bunch of edits, and then you forgot, like, oh, this one did what, that, and the other multiplied like 50 times, and then you have this like rat nest of network. So this will help keep your scene tidy and sane. And then the USD parent geometry, if you like are using multiple of these assets, you want to just like organize them and plug them in under one other umbrella, you do so with that. And it looks like this. So I have a stash node at the top. That's where I did all this quad remesh pre-processing from the image to 3D. And I baked it out with UVs and everything, imported the one file. And then I wanted 4 workbenches, so I just made 4 of them. And for each, I positioned them individually, then put them in a USD parent geometry, and then a null. So it looks something like this, where I already placed other assets in the scene, and my workflow was that I brought everything as much as possible to their final position in SOPs. So any sort of rotation and translation, I actually had to redo a bunch of these because I saw like all the mess that I had, and I applied back all the transforms and rotations and scale to each of these USD create components. Also, if you're thinking, well, yeah, Fianna, you're saying it's like lightweight, but it's like 12 frames per second. What's up with that? Well, I didn't optimize any of the geometry that I pre-processed with this image to 3D. There were like, this like power outlet was like, I don't know how many million faces. But I just wanted to jam things into the scene to see if they would work. And then I can always go back afterwards and optimize my geometry. So here's what the scene looked like. And it looks like a lot, but it's not. You'll see these like blue nodes everywhere sprinkled. The green stuff was polyhaven, and everything else minus the blue were the quadrimeshed items or hand modeled. And so the blue stuff was just object merges where I point to each of the nulls. And I set up my, in this case, 3 structures. And it looks like this when I bring them into LOPs. It's kind of tidy. I have my 3 main parts, like the bike shop. I have, I think it already skipped that part. The stuff in the room, like the room geometry, and then I have like posters and some license plates. And everything is kind of organized within that. If I want to move anything, I just go do it in SOPs. And I hope that gives you an idea of the like blurring of the borders between SOPs, like working in SOPs and LOPs and Copernicus to make an idea come about in Houdini. Thank you. There's no time for questions.
Check. Any questions?
Damn it.
Fianna's wrong, we do have time.
Unfortunately, I can't see any hands because I'm in the dark, so too bad.
Any questions? All good?
Okay.
Nice work, Fianna.
Thanks.
Oh,
What?
one. Over there, yeah. Got it. Hold on.
There are forward lights.
What is the advantage of implicit surface and in comparison to Boolean?
So you get the automatic quad generation, like the quad mesh generation in that. It's just like when you do the final convert, it just outputs a quad. So you get the Boolean, but I'm gonna say something wrong, so I won't say it, but whatever it is that you're doing as an operation with implicit surfaces, it doesn't care about your resolution of the mesh. It's not a mesh. So with Booleans, it is mesh, and you end up usually with all this like long slivers and triangles and things. It's like hideous geometry. Also, it's like can be slower, or you get some bits that kind of goes into itself. It's just kind of more lightweight and cleaner, but it's less precise.
Oh, I see.
Like you have to do an additional operation of like another quad remesh, which I know I was raving about quad remesh and everything. Yes, it has its place, but for me, I don't want to it sounds stupid, but like if I see that it's kind of like an ugly mesh, then I will have a compulsion to go clean it up. Whereas with the implicit surface, it did the job, and it's quad, and I can just like get some seams and unwrap it, get the UVs, and call it a day.
I see.
I can show you after if you want.
Can I ask one more question? So
Yeah.
about, you said the whole point of bringing the component,
USD
USD component builder into SOPs is not to repeat the whole process. Then what about, do you assign the materials in SOPs as well?
No, you do that in LOPs.
Okay, but because in the viewport that you showed, you are in SOPs moving the tables around, and
Yeah.
where does the material come from?
Eagle eye. So I wanted to get into this, but I was advised not to. But I plan to do a video after the release to explain my own preference that I would like to see textures in the viewport. And I actually downloaded GLTFs from Polyhaven, so they automatically load with a texture.
Oh, I see.
As opposed to USD, which sounds like counter, like we author USD, so it should, but it didn't load the textures automatically, and I just wanted something quick, and it worked.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers. Okay.
Anyone else?
Goodbye.
Good job, Fianna. Thank you.
Thanks.